Alex, and this is the YouTube channel Antiques and Learning to Live. This will be my first video being on camera, actually presenting on camera, I should say. And I'd like to thank the people who have subscribed to the channel. The videos have definitely been lackluster due to don't really have any equipment made for this. This is being recorded on a cell phone with earpieces, and it's picking up a lot of the ambient noise with the clocks and fan, of course, but I think this will be okay until I can get a better setup. So I was asked a couple of questions today, and I think this would be a good way to kind of introduce myself. So the first question was two-part. How did you get into antique fans? Well, I had a fascination with them when I was younger, probably 19, 20 years old. Excuse me. I tried to fix a Westinghouse 164848G and ended up burning up the motor. Very disappointed in myself, so I basically put all it was 5 or 6 that I had purchased at the time, and I put them up in my workshop and didn't think about them. And then sometime in middle of, I want to say July 2019, they asked me to restore an Emerson 29648. And I found it actually be easy after, I guess 15 years of working on antique furniture, lighting, computers, just anything of the sort, stereo equipment. So the owner, he liked it so much, he took it home. So I decided to come home, take down a couple off the shelf, and I started with a GE AOU 1924 AD1, and the results were quite good. After that, I started taking all of them down off the shelf, and eventually even restored the one with the burnt motor just by replacing the stator in the motor case. And all of a sudden, I've restored over 70 for myself and almost 360 overhauls and restorations. An overhaul is where you clean up the original paint, but you completely overhaul the motor, the wiring, the gearbox, the switch, everything like that, electrical varnish, new wire, and just whatever it needs to be done, and polish the brass. Restoration, you strip the paint and repaint it. And I've got a pretty popular paint process you can find on the old AFCA forums. So the second part of the question, how did I get into antique clocks? Well, I've always liked antique clocks, but I didn't know how to work on them until last year. Sometime early last year, a lady came in to my little lighting repair shop I have at a antique mall in another town. And I told her, I said, I don't work on clocks. And so she kept on me about it for about 20 minutes. And I said, come back in 3 months with the clock. And I got home and I bought a bunch of cheaper clocks on eBay and taught myself how to repair the clocks. And then I went and repaired all of them in the house. So I've done dozens of clocks at this point, and that's how it started. I've got some pretty ones. I've worked on French, American, one German clock, and I kind of knew the basics already because I had dabbled in repairing wristwatches and pocket watches at one time. I won't say I would do that for other people because I don't feel confident enough in my abilities with wristwatches in particular, stuff like this. Because once you damage a part, it's just, it's a write-off if you can't find the part. So, second question was, if I had to save 5 fans in my personal collection, what would they be? Well, honestly, it changes day to day. But I thought about it today for a little bit. So, hopefully, with this very amateur setup, I'll be able to show you the ones I feel like I would keep out of the collection if I had to choose today. So these won't be in order. This is just a list of 5, so there's no priority. But one would be this one, which was probably the most popular restoration I ever completed. And this is a 1914 Emerson 19646. And this one's got a brass cage, brass blades, brand new blade set made by Jerry Brobby for this one. Has a rewound stator from the late Sidney Lamb. And I went ahead and brassed it out. Brass grommets with rubber inserts, polished all the brass, and also found these brass knobs on a broke easel on the side of the road, and made foot caps with rubber on the bottom and these brass caps on the top. And you see it's got the beautiful brass twist oiler. Custom wire by Tony Clayton for this. So that would be the first. Next one up, and I think this will always be on the list. This is the first restoration, the GEAOU I was talking about. 1924 was the last year of the all cast iron and brass. And you can see it's not perfect. You can tell it was my first personal restoration and second restoration I dabbled in. So there's the back. You see the brass bell. They're nicknamed brass bells. And this was a very common style fan, and probably one of the easier to get all iron and brass fans. So next up, I've got the complete Emerson 216 series, but my favorite is the 6-wing, of course, with the big motor. It's the 21666. And you can see 6 wings. It runs much slower, but with the extra wings, it still moves the same amount of air. It's just a wonderful fan. And I've got a little bit newer version of that in my bedside, the 27666, made in 1919. This was made in 1914. And you can see the beautiful profile with the step base. And it's an oscillating model. Brass cage, brass blade, and that one got the full restoration as well. Next fan up. This was my very first expensive fan purchase, and probably one of the only 2 fans I paid retail for. Well, a little bit less than retail, but you get the idea. This is a 16-inch 1906 General Electric quote-unquote pancake fan. Now the 16-inch, the motor is a little bit deeper, so it looks more like a cake, but it's still very big around. And you can see on the back, it's not very deep, though, even though it's deeper than the 12-inch model. Its 16-inch has 2 bearings, where the 12-inch has 1 bearing in the front and a rotor balance blade setup. But this model was early 1906, because later in 1906 they got rid of what they call a beauty ring on the motor. So, say my 1907 12-inch pancake does not have this ring on the back. I actually find the lack of the ring to be a little more elegant and beautiful, but to each their own. Everyone's going to have different tastes. And last one, if I had to decide today, this is the Jandis wire mount. It's hard to find these with solid brass blades. They're usually brass-plated steel. A buddy of mine got tired of trying to work on this one. He sold it to me for far lower than retail, and it was in a box and a bunch of parts, so I didn't know if it was going to run or not, but no big deal. Let's see if we can zoom in on the cast badge. Cleveland, Ohio, USA. Just absolutely beautiful fan, and I love the bulbous base on the bottom here. So what I really love about these is the side profile. And they call them a wire mount because of the wrought iron yoke here, which is unbreakable, which is really cool for a swivel and trunnion fan. So brass cage, brass blade. This one, I believe, was made about 1910 or 1911. Not entirely sure because it's marked with the Adams Bagnall motor, but it's the same exact stator as a General Electric big motor yoke fan. But having a solid brass blade was a huge plus for me. And as you can see, it's got a cast brass hub, which is pretty cool. And I'm always a sucker for pizza slice blades. But it's just a great fan. And I'll do a video on this one specifically at some point and some of the others. So those are the 5 for the day. So that covers the 2 questions that I got for the day, and I think this video has gone long enough. I really appreciate you watching today. If you enjoyed the content today, and I hope you did, if you could just hit the subscribe button, I would be very grateful for that. Very small channel, trying to build it up. Not trying to make any money off of it, just want to be more educational and maybe just some insights into collecting and things like that. Please leave any questions in the comment section and I'll get to them and answer them as truthfully and concisely as I possibly can. So with that said, this has been Alex with the channel Antiques and Learning to Live. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night.